Alright, so everything about dopamine. Um, Dopamine is a hormone. It's a feel-good hormone, so it makes you feel nice. It's not happy hormone. The hormone that makes you feel happy, that's serotonin. This is basically a feel-good hormone, and you get it from a lot, like a big spectrum of things. But basically, you get it from like pleasurable activities like sex, eating tasty food, doing drugs, scrolling on social media, stuff like that. But these things may sound degenerate, but these things are important. Like having sex is important, eating tasty food to our primal brain is important because our brains haven't changed from the stone ages that much. So our basic instincts are to just hoard as much fucking food as possible, and the tastier the food, the unhealthier is actually what our body needs to store. So fattier foods are always like a need. Um, the sweeter the thing is, the more carbs it has, the more it's going to fuel you. So our brain thinks that these things are nice, but these actually aren't. So anyways, you get dopamine from all these things, but you also get this from like relatively productive and nicer things too. So when you accomplish something, or when you say you're going to do something and then you go about and do it, like building habits, stuff like that, um, taking cold showers, stuff like that also gives you dopamine. Getting dopamine from good sources versus bad sources are two very separate things. Okay, so the quality of your dopamine actually matters, and let me explain you why right now. So let's take example of drugs. This is I got this from Andrew Huberman video, so I'll do my best to explain this. So basically, when you do cocaine, your dopamine levels go up like 400%. That means you feel exceptionally good. I'm not obviously not promoting cocaine, but your dopamine levels go up 400%. That means that what your normal baseline of dopamine was, it goes up 400 times that. Okay, so that's a lot. And the interesting thing about that is that every time your dopamine levels go up, like every time you have like this random and very unnatural spike, it then goes down. But this is what's interesting, it goes down below the normal baseline. That means that what your normal levels of dopamine were, if you do something that spikes your dopamine levels, then it goes down very quickly and way down below your baseline. That means you're going to feel worse after the drug wears out, or after the dopamine levels are gone. And another very interesting thing happens is that eventually, like when you keep doing the thing again and again, so maybe you scroll on social media all fucking day, or you do cocaine all day, you will get these spikes, but they will get smaller. So maybe it was 400%, then it'll go 350, then it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And eventually, but what happens is that the spike, even though it gets smaller, it goes down still. So even though it has like now 200%, it will still go down. Even though it's like 100%, it's still go down. Even if it is like 1 or 2%, eventually you won't get any spikes at all. That means your dopamine level won't go any up, but your spike will still happen. That means that you're just doing the activity like a zombie, and it's not making you feel good. Rather, it's crashing your dopamine levels down. That means you're feeling worse than you originally did. And eventually, you're just going to do the activity just for the sake, just in the hopes of getting that dopamine hit. But instead, you're just gonna feel worse. That's what causes depression, in my opinion. That's the vicious cycle, because the thing that gives you like a huge dopamine hit in the beginning, eventually it doesn't feel as good. That's why you often might have heard your parents say that you shouldn't oversaturate something. You shouldn't spend all day playing video games, because you might have seen some of your friends doing this. They'll just be like sad in front of the TV like that, and they'll be playing fucking video games like fucking zombies. They're not feeling good, they're not feeling bad, they're just doing it. Okay, so eventually it just becomes a habit, and your just dopamine levels crash. So you don't want to be doing that. Alright, so imagine this. You've just woken up, and the first thing you do is you grab your phone, and you open Instagram, and you see a little red dot on the side of your screen, and you click on it, and you see that one of your friends has texted you something. They sent you a reel or some shit. You watch that reel, and your dopamine level just went up. You like that reel, and you back up, and you start scrolling your home feed, and you stumble upon a picture of a hot chick. Your dopamine level just went up again. and you keep scrolling, and you keep repeating the cycle. So a text from a friend, keep scrolling a hot chick, keep scrolling some gym motivation video, keep scrolling some meme, keep scrolling, and you're just in this fucking cycle of your dopamine level, just small spikes and then it crashes, small spike and it crashes. It just keeps going like that, just keeps going like that, and it's been like a hour and a half since you've woken up, and finally you put your phone down because you feel like shit, and you go out, you talk to your family or something, and you're just in a fucking cranky mood. Everything is pissing you off, and you cannot understand why. It's because you started your day off taking a drug, basically, because you fucked your dopamine levels. When you woke up, your dopamine was like well on its baseline, but when you started scrolling on Instagram, your dopamine level went up by all means, but then it crashed down, and it crashes down so deep, and there's no way to stop that crash. Whenever your dopamine levels go up, it goes back down. When you get dopamine from the wrong sources, when you get dopamine from doing the wrong things, your dopamine level crashes down, and then you have no way to bring it back up because you don't know how. You don't know your own dopamine. I'm going to help you there. I don't get dopamine crashes because I understand how my dopamine works, and I used to, and I prefer to use it mindfully. So basically, the first thing I do when I wake up is I walk, and I feel good when I walk. So my walk doesn't make me feel like shit. But instead, if I had gotten up and the first thing I would do is like scroll on my phone, open Instagram or some shit, I would feel like shit. Even though it's supposed to give me like a small spike, I would in my mind be aware of the fact that it's going to make my dopamine levels crash afterwards, and that would make the whole experience feel like shit. Right? So the thing that would even so temporarily make me feel a little good is supposed to make me feel a little good, just makes me feel like shit. So to me, it doesn't make sense to open Instagram at all. I don't use Instagram at all. It just makes me feel like shit. I'm not on any social media sites. I barely open WhatsApp. So you need to be mindful of what you do with your time. So there are two scenarios, right? So in scenario one, and the loser scenario, I wake up, and the first thing I do is snooze my alarm or turn my alarm off, and I pick up my phone and open Instagram, start replying back to all the unread text on WhatsApp. Then I get onto Instagram, start scrolling, see some chick with the tits out, just nonsense stuff. And now it's like 2.5 hours since I've woken up, and I feel like shit. Versus if in the most best case scenario, it's 5 a.m. and I wake up before my alarm clock, and I turn my phone off completely. I switch my phone off, I throw it away, and I start working on whatever it is that I'm currently very passionate about. And I do 2 to 3 hours of deep work even before everyone else in my house is awake. And then I go about my day. I will read, I will shower with cold water, and now my dopamine levels are above my baseline. So this is my baseline. This is where my dopamine levels would usually sit around. And right now my dopamine levels are like here, and they will stay here. This is not a spike. This is like my dopamine levels elevated and they're steady. So maybe eventually they will slowly, gradually come down, but that's like a heavy, it's like a healthy thing. It's not unnatural spike and then unnatural crashes. They usually normally get down anyway. If your dopamine level is like below average also, eventually there will be a part of the day when it like gradually comes up. Like your dopamine levels always want to come back to the baseline, right? So if you can keep your dopamine levels above baseline for most of the day, then you're going to feel good most of the day. Versus if you keep it below baseline for most of the day, then you're going to feel shit most of it, right? So it's just fucking logic, but people don't use it like that. So I would highly recommend that you think about this and use your dopamine mindfully. In my opinion, if you keep stacking on these good things, that will just elevate your levels of dopamine. You're going to feel awesome, and you're going to associate positive feedback with these things. So you're going to stick to them and you're going to feel good doing them. So this is why when I work the first thing in the morning, I feel awesome, and that leads me to walking more often. right? So you can use dopamine and you can manipulate it how you want, but this is everything that I know about dopamine and everything that I mindfully, unconsciously use with regard to my own dopamine levels. I hope this video helped you a lot, and I'm building a community of high value men or people who want to become high value men. Subscribe to my channel so my videos just like this show up on your home feed more often, and I'll see you in the next video.